You can drag that box down.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for coming. I'm going to give a brief introduction to genealogical research. My name is June Power. I am the Access Services Reference Librarian here at the library. And I've done a lot of personal genealogy, so it's kind of a personal interest of mine. And since we have so many good tools now to work with, and the library particularly has an ancestry account that I would love to see people take advantage of, I wanted to get this session. Okay. Actually, push the button. I guess that way. All right. Genealogy is often not just a straightforward path. It's often a journey. There's lots of twists and turns in it. And to avoid getting lost, you really need to be organized. My family, this is an older thing that hasn't actually been updated probably since the mid-'80s. This was a genealogy done by some of the older ladies in my family. And this was back before the internet and computers, and everything was done by hand. And the pages inside are actually typewritten, which was actually made into a published book that is now at the University of Georgia. But they didn't just jump right into this. They kind of had to have a plan, because that was a lot of paperwork and a lot of birth certificates and grave rubbings, and you have to be very organized. So this actual little book here was the perspective. This was the plan that they put together before they kind of jumped in whole hog and made this big kahuna. So once you're ready to start your own genealogy, think about how you want to go about doing it, kind of a plan of attack. Do as much background reading as possible. And hopefully it's a computer. Let me, I'm going to hop out here and hop over. I also have a few books that I was able to use that were actually published and in libraries. And a lot of this stuff is now online, especially if it's older and there's no copyright on it. You can find it online. So this entire book that's the Askell genealogy, which is my mother's maiden name. I can pull up online. I probably found 2 or 3 books that cover our family genealogy in that particular line online this way. So there's lots of sources out there, so go out and look. Do your background research. Find out what you know. If you can find a local group, a lot of times there's people that are nearby that have been doing genealogy for a long time, and they love to share their expertise. If you get a veteran researcher, they love to teach somebody how to do genealogy and sit down with them and take time to kind of get them on their own path and get them started. Different sources and records sometimes take a different approach. You might approach online records different than you might approach records in print. I'm just making sure I cover everything. When you're doing this, you can decide whether you want to focus on a single individual and then branch out from that. You can maybe pick, I want to do this particular line of my family tree. Or you may want to just cast out a broad net and say, I just want to find out whatever I can about whatever. And so maybe kind of going for a broad look rather than a very deep look. And so you can kind of go about it different ways. You just have to decide on that before you get started, if you have a plan of attack. If you just jump in, and you can just jump in, that can be fun. And you can find out a lot of interesting things that way. But a lot of times you'll be a lot more successful if you have a plan going into it. So first you got to figure out what's known already. I was able, luckily, to have some resources on one side of my family that gave me a lot of background information. On my father's side of the family, and there's practically nothing. Like there's like zero. I can go back to like my grandparents and my great-grandparents, and then it's over because it's all handwritten French parish records from Canada, which is a little bit more tricky to deal with than United States records that are, contained in our census and our normal records like that. Start with yourself and work backwards. Make note of any important dates, any important places that may come up. Talk to the older people in your family that are still around that may remember stories. Sometimes your genealogy doesn't tell you everything. My great-grandfather, the whole family is living in Georgia and Florida, but he up and dies in Alabama. There's a story behind that. And it was not in the genealogy. I had to go to my mom to find out, well, back in the day, they didn't have divorce. So he was kind of, in a way, divorced, but they didn't divorce, and he moved out to Alabama and came home at Christmas. And that's how it went. So that's why he died in Alabama, but they brought him back and buried him in Georgia. Any kind of personal anecdotes or stories, you're not going to get that from your genealogy. Get that from the people that are existing while you can. Record everything that you can, everything that you know on forms. And there's print forms you can do this. You can download forms from the internet that have like little family tree things where you can plug the information in. Or there's plenty of tools online. I prefer online because for me it's easier, but some people like to have it on print in front of their face because it's just, they think it's better that way. And so there's books, there's internet, there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. Locate all the documents that you can possibly get your hands on before you start. That way you kind of have a starting place. And then you're just kind of filling in the blanks. Because you'll say, oh, I know this, but what happened over here? And you can fill in the blanks that way. I'm going to pop out and show you this site really quick. It's called Family Echo. This is a free site, and it is great for recording family tree information. Like I said, you can do a print family tree, but on my mom's side of the family, there's so many that you have to take up so many pieces of paper, it just becomes monstrous. Like they actually have it framed in like 5 framed things in my aunt's house, but it takes up 5 huge, like giant poster-sized things. So doing that on paper can be hard. So this is Family Echo. Basically, it's a family tree. I'm here. There's my husband and my daughter, and then you can go up. There's probably 300 people in this tree. And you just plug it in. Like I can go in and edit my details. I can say who my partners are. I can put in biographical information, where I was born. And so you can kind of see it can go up. And where they have these little lines, that's where it goes up. And you can just keep going up and up. So unknown colonists is where it goes up. And then you can go back. This one goes back to the 1800. And she was born in England. So you can plug in some of that kind of information. So it's a really good place to take notes that cost you absolutely nothing. And I actually have multiple accounts because on this, it's hard to set up multiple trees. So I set up multiple accounts to do the different parts of my family.
What was that called?
Family Echo.
And
it's completely free. And I'm willing to show anybody more of that and all, but it's pretty basic. It's just basically just family tree software online. You can download it to a Word document when you're done. You can download it to like a CSV form that you can export into an Excel database. So there's lots of ways that you can use that information. There are a lot of documents that are very, very, very useful. Identify certain basic facts about individuals before you go on. Recall any information about the family members that's already in general knowledge. After vital statistics, there's other, personal facts of interest. Where did they go to school? What are some places that they lived? What was their occupation? Once you know what you've identified, then you can look at your chart and see where your gaps are and try to fill in those gaps. And again, go to those older relatives, ask them questions while they're still around. They are an invaluable source of resource. If you can record what they say, so much the better. Oral histories are wonderful. Family Bibles. If there's a family Bible lying around, it has a lot of information in it. So all of these types of resources can really make your research a lot easier going in. There's a lot of public records. So you have your family record, your yearbooks, your school pictures, your diaries, your journals. But then there's also a ton of public information. Newspapers have obituaries, they have birth notices, they have wedding announcements. Church registers record baptisms and marriages and burials. Municipal records have vital statistics as well as estate records, wills, deeds, tell you where people live, what kind of land they owned. And published family histories, that book I showed you online, that was a published family history that was found in a Georgia library. And of course, there are a ton of internet sites now. There is a plethora. Genealogy.com is subscription-based, but you can research and communicate with other researchers and share your family trees and talk on message boards and search different data collections. That's really good if you really want to have an online community and maybe talk with some other people about your research and get some research assistance. FamilySearch.org is a free site. It is run by the LDS, the Church of Latter-day Saints in Utah, and they have so much information, it is ridiculous. And it's all free, and you can go on and search, and they have subsets of information. They have specific information for searching Native American ancestry and for searching African American ancestry. So they break it down very far. It's a very good site. I use that one a whole lot in addition to Ancestry. Ancestry, I'll show you. It's subscription based, but you can use it here at the library. We do have a library subscription to ancestry.com. It is completely free. You have to use it in the building though. There is no off-campus access to it. I think that it works other places on campus, but not off campus. So as long as you're on the campus network, you should be able to get in. National Archives and Records Administration is a good place to go online. They have a lot of things. And any of their research facilities has ancestry.com as well, if you go to any of the national archives places. Heritage Quest is subscription-based, but another good site. And East Carolina Roots is really good because it focuses specifically on resources that are pertinent to Eastern Carolina, which is where we are. And then that's free. And US GenWeb and NC GenWeb are free sites run by volunteers that may have some information. A lot of times they'll have burial information, find a grave type of stuff on those. And so those are really good sites. And what that attempts to do is to have somebody that's in charge of each county. Like I'm the the NC GenWeb manager for Scotland County. And so I manage the website for the Scotland County genealogical portion. When you're doing American Indian genealogy, it can be a little bit more difficult. Obviously, records were not kept very good for a very long time for everybody in this country. It requires a cross-disciplinary approach. A lot of times it's not, you're not going to find, the birth certificates going back to 1600s because birth certificates just weren't kept. So you have to do, there are a few census records that have notations, but not a lot of them. Church and local records often have a little bit more. Tribal histories, tribal enrollment. The Family History Library at Salt Lake, which is related to that FamilySearch.org site, the Church of Latter-day Saints, has a lot. That is one of the biggest places for Native American sources. And there's an article, it's kind of getting cut off from this thing here. I don't know if I can shut that off. Sorry. Oh, I can't move this off. There it is. But I cite this article, and anybody that wants this presentation after, so they can look up this article. That would be a good read before you get started. The American Indian ancestors are represented in all the usual records. They're represented in census, cemeteries, obituaries, and military records. Native Americans have served in the United States military in every war since the Revolutionary War. So there are some of those records that will have those resources. And then there are also those records that will specialize just in Native American resources. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, like I said, travel enrollment. And so here are some that are specific to Native American research. Looking at maps, removal records, treaties, tribal office records. Nearly every state in the U.S. has their own Office of Indian Affairs. And if the tribe is not federally recognized, the state will have the kind of information the federal government generally has. They have a particular responsibility to keep that information. Churches, schools, and health facilities that were established specifically for Native Americans kept records, and those records will have clues sometimes. And there's a lot of subsets in databases, ancestry.com and some other sites will have subsets of records that allow you to search specifically Native American records. You run into the same sorts of issues researching African American ancestry because there just weren't those kind of records kept. The Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's Bank. Those are two different things. It sounds like, but one kind of kept records that were more like the vital statistics. And the Freedmen's Bank, after the Civil War, when people were given some land and some money, these accounts were open. When they opened these accounts, they recorded genealogical information with the bank accounts. And this last site, I cannot say the name, Afria-Gene, I don't know how it's pronounced, but that's a good site to start, and it'll give you some clues on getting a start on African American ancestry. So the records were scantily kept before the Civil War. Genealogical techniques that were used to track slave families before the war are not the same that you're going to use to track things after the war. It takes two different approaches, depending on whether you're doing pre-Civil War research or post-Civil War research. But after the Civil War, generally, the same types of records are kept: census, military, those sorts of things. Ancestry.com has so much. It's got newspapers, periodicals, birth, marriage, and death records, obituary collections, city directories. I was able to find my grandmother's phone number in Bristol, Connecticut from the 80s. Court, land, wills, financial records, military records, and published local accounting histories, as well as census and voter lists. I'm going to pop out real quick and show you Ancestry. When you come to the library and you come to Ancestry, it's under our electronic resources from the library's webpage. If you go to electronic resources, it's under the A's for Ancestry, so it's pretty easy to find. And you can see if you can search the census, you can search vital statistics, you can search the military, you can search immigration records, you can try to find your first ancestor that came over and checked in. They have all the Ellis Island records are in here. Or you can just pop in and search. If you don't know, well, I don't know what I want to search, you can just do a general search. But sometimes you're coming in looking for something specific. Like I come in and I'm looking just for the military records to find my grandfather's World War II Marines muster records. And it was cool because while I was doing that, I found my great-grandfather's World War I and enlistment record, which was also cool. But sometimes if you don't know, you can go to all categories, and I'll show you. And it just kind of, you can just jump in and start anywhere. How would you... You can just put in anything and hit search, and it pulls up. And this is actually his draft card, my great-grandfather's draft card. This is the one that went off to Alabama and died, mysteriously. And when you kind of hover over it, it'll give you the transcription of what it says, the name and everything. But then you can actually click on the link and actually view the document, which is really cool. So I can read everything that he had filled out there, though honestly, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, reading some of this handwriting is just awful. And when you're looking at handwritten French parish records from the 1800s, you might want to pull your hair out, but you can do it. I guarantee it just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of looking over it from time to time. And you can go back there, and then other things, I just want to show what a census record would look like. So in the census record, it gives his name, and gives his information, and it'll say everybody that lived in the house. So that's a lot of, that's one way that I was easily able to go back and find some of the other ancestors by looking at these census records and saying, well, who else was in the house that had that name? And if they didn't have a name, what were they doing in the house? So there were some interesting things there. It's my grandfather. And then find a grave is really cool, and I'll show, I'll mention this later, but if it'll come up. And this will pop you out to the Find a Grave website. And Find a Grave is a great website, and it actually shows the gravestones. So that's my great-grandfather's gravestone in Jacksonville, Florida. And it'll say where they're buried at, what the cemetery is, when they were buried, when they were born, get some of their information. So you can actually do a lot of genealogical research on the Find a Grave site itself. So back up there. There's just so much. And so let's see, there's more census. I was going to see the city directory. This is kind of neat. That's where you can kind of see, it's like a phone book. And a lot of times it'll give you a phone number. It'll tell you what their job was. It'll give you some great information. So we're going to look at different types of cover the graves, security applications, death index. And so you can see I got about 5,700 results. Now, I have got them a search sometimes where it's kind of a broad search because I didn't have the specific information I needed. And I didn't get very far. And so sometimes you have to narrow these searches. So maybe I just want to look at family trees that have my great-grandfather in it. Or maybe all I want to look at is census stuff. Or maybe I just want to look at the 200 military records. So you can narrow your search once you've gotten in there. The other thing is is it starts out broad and exact. So I can say, well, this is broad, but I want exactly that and exactly this. And if I update it now, I get one record. So for some of the others, maybe he was Ernest L. So you have to be careful about, you really want to be specific, but maybe not everything had his middle name in it. So I can back that off a little bit and be like, well, give me exact and similar. So now I get about 300, which is a little bit more of a workable number. So you can look through all those. So it gives you some really, really, really great information. And then what I was doing before I got my own personal ancestry account was doing all my research here and then going over to Family Echo and putting in that family tree information and building that family tree. And all of that was free. It didn't cost me a dime. I didn't have to go down to Georgia to go get vital statistics. I didn't have to go get grave rubbings. I was able to do all that from a computer.
So how current is the information?
It's pretty current now. It will not have people that are, you can't get to that information for people that are living, generally. Though, I'll back out. Supposedly, my parents' divorce records are in here. And my dad, the address that we lived at in Virginia when I was in high school was in here. So there's some, but that's public, that's like directory information. If it's directory information, it's going to be in here, and some vital statistics. But you can't get a lot of stuff on people that are living. They pretty much have to be passed. And when you're building your own family tree, if you have any living people in there, if your family tree is public, then nobody can see the living people. You can only see the people that have passed. So that's a library edition that is free for everybody and anybody can use it.
And June, excuse me, on the Family Echo site, is there a blank family tree that you're inputting the information that you find?
Oh, that Family Echo site, yeah. You start with yourself, and then you say, these are my parents, and these are my parents' parents, 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 and you just keep building back. You work from yourself and work backwards. And so I've listed in this that when I send this out, you can see that there's all these different types. There's maps, even an atlas. One of my favorites is the stories. Every once in a while you get like a little story, and I'll show you that in a minute. The other really great thing about the library edition is it has foreign records, and let me show you. New collections. If you go to the new collections, you can see got stuff from Venezuela, Chile, Nicaragua, Mexico. I have a paid version of Ancestry for myself, but I have the El Cheapo version, which does not include foreign records. And my father's side of the family is Canadian French. My grandparents were born in Canada and spoke French. And so basically, once I get to them, I have to be able to get to the foreign records. And so I have to use the library edition in order to get to those records because my personal edition doesn't have access to that part. So that part I find very, very exciting that we have access to all these records from all these countries. Old British records, I was able to find British records going back to the 1200s in Ancestry. We've traced one of my mom's lines back to 1018, so 1012, and 3 others back to the 1500s, all using Ancestry. And I couldn't do that without the library version because once they go back over the ocean, my version doesn't have it anymore. It only records the American records. So that part's really a good thing. Oh, shoot, sorry. I did not mean to do that. Sorry, let me hop back up where I was. Okay. Now, I do want to show you the personal version. The personal subscription allows you to actually do a lot of really cool stuff. There is a monthly cost for it. The cheapest one is $19.99 a month. But since I am my family's resident genealogist, oh, shoot, sorry, I'm trying to get there. Nope. Sorry, this thing in the middle. Oh. I'm going to get it this way. Sorry. That little menu up there was not letting me click on it properly. So this is what it looks like when I log into my personal account, which you can see is a little different. It's got me here. So it's giving me some, saying, hey, we have some hints for you because you've been working on things. it actually allows you to have trees. And so I have, this is my mother's line, and then my father's, and I've been doing my husband's as well. I'm going to click on one. I'm just going to show you. That's where I left off back in the 1400s. So this one, and I can make it smaller. So it looks a lot like that family access thing, and then when you have the little arrow, that means you can go down to like the generations below. And everyone that has a little leaf means I had a hint. So I have more hints than God to review right now on this one. Not sure all of them. Oh. And Firefox is trying to do something weird. But they're not always easy to do. My mom's family tree has like 300 people in it. And then this is my dad's. That's where I'm at. There's no green leaves. There's nothing. I got to do a lot of Canadian research here. So I'm a little stumped on this one. But it's good when you get there. I do want to show you what the hints do look like, guys. Let me go back to where I actually have some. And so you can go to hints, and you can see I've got almost 2,000 hints I need to review. Then they'll break down to records, photos, stories, and then other people that have made their trees public that have some of your relatives in them. My favorite are the stories. I really enjoy reading those. You see, I need to find them. So once you have people in there, you can actually search for which family. Echo does not have this nice search feature. And when you have 300 people on your tree, the search feature is nice. So this is him, and when you pull up a person, they have a life story, and it says, well, this is him, this is what he did, and then there's his family, and to kind of bring on what's going on, and it gives you the facts and substance. And for that, we're going to go into that. And I mentioned apparently too much to argue and feel with. I don't even. Great, or even on their project, automatic person, yeah, there's another cheater. This is one of my 1620. Surprise! And you can see over from Chip Public, from the Den 16 Freeman, then your acres of there, come over and own this land and built it. He just received stuff in a hospital. Really neat. Doing that. The story that kind of like it'll tell you because sometimes you figure out or getting anything. So this is great. When I found fourth, that's it. Very nice. I record so much. Don't mind sharing anything. Totally worth it on it. And so break it. And mostly way that we aim for something to know that nothing. I don't know where it came from. Great break with that to end with. So it's really cool, interesting. That's the DNA out there. Pretty cool. I feel like really the me is actually DNA. Me and you said I found my brother, which was I just thought I don't know in here. You know, it was fun and we had a cool. So now the ancestries there were and there was like no far back in 70. It's probably all the same. Grandma that's interesting for you. I did. More than one of the others, you and your sister on the second. You can read me. The one that one, so more has it and everything but dollars. Yes, it is too. This is birthday for her. You get the silver, you get sometimes you get a store more. You still get when you keep it on. I like it. And so it was funny. And really cool questions they were looking at. I was grandfather would work and my great grandfather worked book pictures. I'm like, it's one of the 20 issues. Pretty easier. So that was really cool. Yeah, and I can't work for their hand for a while. You can find you can yeah, a lot of like that. And then I the album because I think I can't see these. So I'm want to other people show you how some great some made in that's the thing I just made in like I follow finally found it in the name. Very excited. Yeah, I was like now. Right, it's for me. So search it's all I think rabbit hole. It's hard to doing it. It's like the broad more with the name. And these grandmother GA message. We're taking records, they're listening to things, or they were together. That's what his name. So as they start out, then more. If you put in and she get out searching on and put it in glass house in her life. And have those senses so the train and your subscribers and not for a lot of stuff. In particular collectors are good psychoanalytic for those to go through at a time. There is you all have mine. Sometimes you get time to do auditing research that you do. They did it was very day, just let it over this web back so the previous space. And so you'll get these more free easier for yourself. Life to interpret for yourself. These are also searchable. Find them in books. Here, read around lines. You can track like real such as I think it's hard. Remember the standard. They spell all different on like 700 times. So I'm going to learn the word S case. So the SS is an S. They is the use. And a lot of times in front of them. So they type that off when you're setting them with it and across. Just work more. Just pressing good things and look, and not just the trick. And the website to demonstrate you guys' site remaining of all sector got a list of good for starting in genealogy. These are good books for beginners in genealogy. And then again, some useful websites. This Genealogy Gopher has a lot of genealogy books. This was a book, one of those online books that I got that was about my family that I was able to find online. Find a Grave. I can't say enough about Find a Grave. It's so wonderful. But all of these have just a plethora of information. And I mean, you can really spend days and days on any of these sites looking for information.
So who actually gathers and inputs the data on Find a Grave?
Anybody can. Anybody can, which is another reason you always want to try to cross-reference your sources and fact-check yourself. But generally, it includes a picture. So people go out and they'll record the information and then record a picture into the grave. So you can almost always find a picture of the tombstone. Like I think in monuments, I'm sorry.
Oh, one of our children, it was just a list of things that didn't know things that I hadn't put my brother's name in. This information.
So you can find, I think this is another one we found. There it is. So that was a group headstone. They were all buried together after the war. So there's all kinds of interesting things on Find a Grave. That was a Find a Grave picture. But there is so much information. You really go in here and go for days. Is there anything anybody would particularly like to see?
As in search, can you do my brother?
Yeah.
We should have a lot of history, but we can just go away. Also, a lot of our local people use our yearbooks and catalogs and so on. So they might want to see that.
Yeah. Let me show
So
you.
what yearbooks did you have? From where?
And it was earlier in the presentation, it did mention, you know, a lot of these non-indexed records and things and these published sources are in university libraries and archives. And it has it in the presentation, but I can't say that enough. But if you go to the library's website and digital collections, college catalogs, and college yearbooks. And it has all the yearbooks back to 1942, and then there was a break for the war, and then everything coming on. So you can go through. And Digital NC has a lot of other county information, from other counties and places in North Carolina. If you wanted to search your brother Willow, it wasn't like okay.
Right.
So there's an obituary. Now you have to. Somewhere else. 1988. Born when?
1969.
So this will usually takes you out to the website. This doesn't have a picture of the grave stuff, but it links you out to the grave information. So you can find a lot of stuff. And the collections are really cool. They have some really cool collections. Sometimes I just like reading through like what they have new. These are new ones, but I mean they have all kinds of record collections. So if you go under immigration, you can get just naturalization records from 1840 to 1957. And they have all of them going back. So, I mean, it's just, you can filter by date. There's so many, filter by language. There's so many ways to make your search be what you want it to be.
That would be search when you just search by last name.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, that would be a very broad search. If we just put in companies. I get like almost 3 million records.
So can you put in signs that there's
SML.
SMILING.
Okay. That's better than 3 million. See, like I said, you know, add places where they live and then that sort of thing. It narrows it down. But there is more
You can
information.
also limit that gender and race and so on.
Yep. When you go to edit search, show more options. You can see everything that you can limit by when you're doing your search. And this is where you can add, you know, family members. You can add events, lived in, birth, marriage, death, arrival, departure, military. So, yeah, all kinds of options. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming, and if you ever want to sit down with me one-on-one, my office is right downstairs next to Sunday. Yes, I will email out the PowerPoint, and then once I get the video, I'll set up the video. Thank you so much.
And I can tell you about that on this side. And there's a John Young in general, you know what I mean. So I wanted to go there and
There's some A-file rolls right there.
so I know he's John Donne Dental. I read more of this and that.